Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Adam Beck. I'm Executive Director for the Smart Cities Council in the region here in Australia and New Zealand, and I'm delighted to invite you and welcome you over the next 4 days, a packed program that is part of Digital Twin Week. We had our first opening session this morning, our State of the Nation. For those that were there, welcome back to this session. We'll be certainly pivoting and changing tack, not only in this session this afternoon, but also many of the others, where we start to actually get a lot more granular around digital twins, what they are, what their use cases might be, what the benefit and value is, and of course, what we might be considering doing moving forward in the coming years. Just a little bit of housekeeping for those that haven't been to the full program on our website. Please head there, digitaltwin.com. You'll be able to register for any of the sessions that are coming up over the next few days. We'd like to certainly encourage you this afternoon with our friends from the University of Melbourne to ask questions and interact. You can do so by using the Q&A box function. You'll all have access to that. Sahil will be keeping an eye on the questions that come in, and of course direct those as appropriate for getting responses. If you have a colleague or a peer that may not have been able to attend this session and you think they may have been interested, they will be able to access a recording of this session on our YouTube channel, Smart Cities Council Australia New Zealand. We'll have it up within about 24 hours, so you can go back in and replay that and share that with your colleagues. For those of you that haven't been to or interacted with or are not subscribing to the Australia-New Zealand Digital Twin Hub, we encourage you to do so. You can also sign up to our Digital Twin e-news that we send out quite regularly, along with other alerts around all things digital twin. So head to digitaltwinhub.org and you'll get a resource there of all different types of diverse knowledge resources, the ability to share and interact with the digital twin community. With that, that's enough from me. Our partner today in the Centre for Spatial Data Infrastructures and Land Administration is here to give us a showcase on all the great work that they're doing. And with that, I'm going to hand controls and moderator responsibility over to Sahil to take you from here. I'll be back later after this session. Sahil, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adam. And we really appreciate your hard work on this and preparing this showcase and our conversation around the Digital Twin Week. And very welcome, everyone. We are very delighted having all of you here with us for showcasing the University of Melbourne Centre for Spatial Data Infrastructure and Land Administration developments and research on the digital twin. So we have an agenda here, and then after letting know about the agenda, I will pass it to Prof. Abbas Rajavi-Fard for the welcoming notes. So if we go to the full screen, Benny, yep.
No, change it to the, yep.
Yep, thank you very much. So the agenda would be, after this introduction, as I mentioned, we actually have, talking about the a little bit of introduction around the Centers for Spatial Data Infrastructure and Land Administration, as well as Center for Disaster Management and Public Safety. We will talk a little about the digital twin definition and what is our digital twin and how we actually aligned our digital twin with all those definitions. And then we move on to the applications. So Benny will be walking us through the disaster and emergency management. I will explain about the planning applications, and we will explain about our digital twin in the University of Melbourne, which is used for different purposes as well, something like, for example, space management, the IoT and sensor network, and so on. And final, Finally, we will have a Q&A, and we are, looking forward to have an interactive session at that point. Thank you, and I pass this to Abbas, Professor Abbas Rajavi-Fard, our director, and we'll come back to you as well as, Benny, for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Sohail. Good afternoon, everyone, and very welcome to our session. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which this event is taking place, the land of Wurundjeri, and I pay respect to their elders and families. I would also like to take the opportunity to thanking the Digital Twin Week organizers, and in particular Adam Beck from Smart City Council, and also the team and also the opportunity for us to sharing with you our thoughts and also our efforts around digital twin. I would also like to take the opportunity to acknowledging a number of industries that have been leading and contributing to these important foundations for our industries, and also to facilitating our jurisdictions and exporting our expertise internationally. I would like to start by acknowledging from Delft because of the leadership in this domain for our Fishermen's Band, which we had the opportunity to working with them, contributing to the prototyping these foundations, and a number of also industries involvement in that from governments that have significantly contributed to the concept, as well as also identifying the number of use cases that we can develop. Also would like to acknowledge the ANZLIC, the peak body that has been, again, leading this concept and providing the principles of this for our industries to bringing all these activities together to forming the foundation for whole Australia. I would also like to acknowledge Arup and also leadership in this domain, and the opportunity that we are now working closely with Arup Spatial Vision into this digital twin activities. At the international level, we are also working under the, again, United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management Academic Network as a strategic research and training arm to assist the member states to addressing sustainability and sustainable development goals, as well as also FIG, the surveyors, as well as also, again, Commission 7 in this domain activity. I would also like to extend our appreciation to our University of Melbourne, in particular our Chancellery leadership and support and trust that put on us to helping with them also not only for our campus digital twin, but also for building digital twin for our new campus in Fishermen's Bend. With this, I would like now, please move to the next one. Next one, please. As Sohail has indicated, a number of elements that we're going to run through this session. And this is going to be, again, based on the efforts of our research team into these activities. Our Center for Spatial Data Infrastructure Land Administration, which is back in 2001 we established, and our focus around using the location intelligence and also modernization of the land system. So we'd like to acknowledge again the significant contribution of many people actually into this domain. Next slide, please. The capabilities of our center and also core elements of our work have been around a number of lenses, and in particular modernization of the land system, utilization of the BEAM, addressing the geospatial and land information as an infrastructure, also digital twin around this, as well as also a number of application domains from the urban analytics, as well as also smart cities, and also addressing sustainable development goals and measuring indicators and coming up with a solution and utilization of the digital twin in addressing this and embedding resilience as well as also sustainability into that, and then communicating that one with a number of different approaches. In fact, digital twin has been, started getting actually more momentum and as a growing area and discipline, but this is actually something that have been defined and understood differently by different communities and different groups. So therefore, this session is going to try to, while actually acknowledging and putting some foundations for this and the work and also definition by different groups, but we are going to take a bit longer again to the new dimensions that our research team have been actually working on and advancing some of these foundations as well as also new applications area. These are the really elements that we need to look at and understand and realize this rather than just staying at the conceptual level, then moving on and then realizing this, providing some new dimension that can help us with improvement of our efficiency and effectiveness in our different processes, and becoming as a, again, this platform become as a live environment and testbed that can provide solution and also improving different dimension and providing a new, again, opportunities for better interactions and collaboration across different groups. Our team around this, we have actually, if we go back in 2001, when we started our work around, again, this center, we started by focusing more onto the data infrastructure and land information, land administration as an infrastructure. Then what you can see on this slide in the lower part of the graph, there are a number of, again, platforms and tools that we have developed over the years in close collaboration with several industries, as well as also, again, the funding agencies and in the international groups and countries that have engaged us into the different activities. And based on this, what we actually arrive into that, if we look at to the journey that we have gone through this. Next slide, please. If when we look at to this, we can then see that from the safety perspective, this is another dimension and the center that our group have been, again, working on from the CDMPS, which we established back in 2014, but then it started again engaging a number of industries and seeing that how we can integrate different application as well as also resilience into our design. So in fact, digital twin areas that we are going to address is actually taking and leveraging off series of, the body of knowledge and also expertise into this. In our center, actually, we have 9 different research units that have been working and advancing our knowledge and practice and formulation of approaches, which then been supported by again, location intelligence, as well as also formulation for modeling, forecasting, and simulation that would provide, again, the means to better actually addressing and providing service into the communities. So with this, next slide, if you look at to the journey that have been, again, this is based on the here, and well as also our work and advancement from the paper-based into digital, into the 3D, into the high definition level, and into the indoor and outdoor, and to the digital twin. So I think the journey that we have been gone through from industries as well as also governments and academia, we can now see that we can leveraging off and fast tracking the means and seeing that how we can really leveraging off all of this and whatever actually we do this, and then we can see how we can bring the sustainability as well as also applications into that. This is a new dimension that we started more focusing on this while we are developing the technical solution and architectural arrangement, which we will be sharing with you today here, but also going back into the foundations and then seeing that how we can bring this and supporting our sustainability elements into that. And by this, I would like just to acknowledging our team, the focus team around the digital twin, as you can see with the number of, again, expertise, disciplines that have been working with us. And again, we have one thing that I have seen, and I'm very delighted to be a member of the team here, is because of the level of the efforts and also passion that the team put forward, and then also push the boundaries And then we were gone already actually beyond some of the expectations, and we already arrive into the new elements, which we have also learned through this and identified a number of also new use cases and areas which now we're working on underground facilities, assets, as well as also integration of this and becoming as a live and also embedding also the live data feed into the system and a series of multifaceted application area. This is going to be beyond one particular, for example, discipline. We are arriving into the mixed type of activities that can address a series of application jointly. By this, I would like to hand over to Sohail that can take us into some of the foundations, and then we can demonstrate a number of application areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abbas. So just to put ourselves in the context and understanding about the meaning of digital twin, as you know, there are different meanings. So we start with the academia and the industry's view. We actually have a very nice presentation with Bentley just recently in the Digital Twin Consortium, and they actually put it in the context of synchronization of virtual representation of a real world asset and moving from the physical asset to the digital asset or digital twin, which provides insight, these decisions, and perhaps intervention, which will be actually reflecting on the physical area, and the cycle goes on. But from the academia perspective, we actually, because we are more talking about the digital twin in a city, we brought this, 2018's Michael Batty's definition on the digital twin, which is about the mirroring image of a physical process, which is, that is articulated alongside the process in question and usually matching exactly the operation of the physical process which takes place in real time. So perhaps you should acknowledging that this is quite ambitious type of definition, and we are we are in the understanding of how we can really achieve that end to be, to placing in the real time and exactly being in operation, but definitely we are moving forward. By the way, this term of the digital twin was first coined by Michael Greaves, who actually was more into the industrial design and aspects related to that. So let's move on and see what is the view from the other countries, from UK, who came up with the Gemini principles. And I just want to emphasize on what distinguishes a digital twin from any other digital model, which is its connection to the physical twin. So there should be a connection and there should be a synchronization. And definitely the UK has started, looking at the digital twin as a game changer for the purpose of public good and value creation to different entities, either the government or industries. They actually looked at the security and openness and quality, and also the federative aspects, as well as having clear ownership and governance and regulations, and finally adopting to the technology and the society evolve. So these are, the basis that we actually in Australia, we started having our definitions in the next slide, which we actually see that Angelique has started really great work, and actually specifically from the spatial point of view, putting the digital twin in the context of the spatially enabled digital twin, which is rightly indicating that by adding the spatial data, the digital twins can be, the value can be increased. And as you can see in the home that is made in the right side of the the screen, the spatial data is underpinning and a foundation of this home, on which We actually have the digital engineering data like beams, the infrastructure, utilities, the sensor data, the social data, the planning and environmental, as well as other type of data, to give the capability for to us to actually for modeling, simulation, and analytics. Definitely, the standards and protocols are very important at the moment in Digital Twin Consortium, as well as the Smart Cities Council. We are talking about those standards and the protocols in terms of data interoperability, the ecosystem of digital twins, in order to actually generate better insights, decisions, and outcomes. So we align ourselves with this definition, and we actually look at the maturity. Definitely, we started this journey together, and we actually have all those initial aspects, and we are trying to reach the, to the level that the automation is happening, and that is really the basis of what we actually done in our centers in terms of the research and the development. We actually based our work on these definitions, and specifically three main components of digital twin, which are data, model, and visualization. So I pass this to Benny to explain a little bit about the technical aspects of our digital twin, and then after that we will talk about the applications. Benny, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Ismail. Okay, just next slide. So here, let's have a look at the data flow of our digital twin. So as Angelique mentioned, there's three major components: data, the model, and some applications. So the first thing is the data. So in our digital twin, so we incorporate all kinds of geospatial data, 2D, 3D, raster, or vector, the time series-based data sets, and we build a series of connectors and digest all this sort of information and uniform in some like open standards like 3D tiles, like the terrain services, and also the OGC, WFS, WMS, all these sort of standards, and also some streaming capabilities. And then we've got all these sort of data right into the system, and then we can apply some models, could be like building tools and plugins or third-party tools, and then start to the analytics and do the visualization and simulation. So here is the main system components. We would consider our digital twin platform as like spatially enabled platform. So we mainly use different open source libraries and applications to build the entire system. So from the data perspective, from the modeling perspective, and also from simulation perspectives. The entire system was created based on the open source frameworks, and we take advantage of Australia's Nectar Research Cloud, and so it's a web-based application and deployed on our own research cloud. So here's some key capabilities of our system, from the multi-source data integration to geospatial modeling, simulation, and to also some advanced analytics, and also move to the AR and VR trends in the past 2 years. So let's have a look at some typical applications of the digital twin. As Sebastian mentioned, we have two centers. The one center is for the for the data management and public safety. So we spent quite some efforts working with agencies in this domain. So in this video, so what we can see here is a collaboration with volunteer fire brigades in Victoria. So they collect a lot of historical incidents information, and so we put this sort of data into the system, and then we start to do some analysis based on the historical incidents. For example, when and where. So all these sort of incidents are happening, and so at the entire Victoria state scale. And where are my resources? How we should make a response to this sort of incident surge, particularly in the busy season from December to March. There's so many concurrent incidents happening across the state. And using this sort of analytics tools, so we visualize, for example, what we currently see on the screen is so each red point is actually like an incident, and all these yellow lines are connected to the local brigade to say how much resources are transported to respond to incidents. And this heat map shows the demands, and the density heat map means, at that specific location, how many concurrent incidents. And this is another heat map, indicates where are my resources. The resources is how many trucks, how many firefighters are deployed to respond to incidents. And let's go to another one. Another scenario is for the urban air pollutant spread simulation. So we choose the Singapore as a case area. So we simulate some air pollution from one end of the city. As you can see, all these sort of like a blue and blurry atmospheres coming towards the city. And we can see how we can turn on different layers to indicators. For example, at specific high level, what will be the pollutants concentration, and what will be the impact to the local buildings. And this simulation is quite similar to some of the CFD simulation, and we integrate this sort of analysis in the digital twin system. So it can clearly demonstrate the impact of this sort of air pollutants propagation. And we also put some efforts to respond to the COVID-19 global pandemic. So we built a new model called the COVID tracker. So it's on the left side, we can say, so we aggregate the live information from different sources and show how many cases detected, how many people died, and how many cases are recovered. And on our right hand, we show some analytics, for example, what is like the hospital service area, how many population can be covered, what will be the more vulnerable population distribution across the state. And we also put some analysis on the non-essential business closed and shut off the impact. So we can just estimate how many loss from either direct or indirect loss can be implied to this sort of situation if we have different policy applied. So now I'll hand it over to Sahil. He will talk about what is the application in the planning perspective.
Thank you very much, Benny. So here we actually want to look at the life cycle of urban planning, and from the start where we actually, as either the strategic planners or statutory planners, how we actually generate the development envelopes based on the rules and available in the context, and then based on from the architecture or developer point of view, how we can actually run the context analysis using the digital twin, and also looking at the planning compliance assessment, as well as a little bit of understanding of the implications of any sort of development in terms of the traffic or any other aspects. So these are some examples of planning applications that we walk you through. So we would like to acknowledge the University of Melbourne Campus Planning and Design Group that actually partnered with us in developing a module which is called the Development Envelope Control. So this is for the University of Melbourne's development. So we actually have the panel which is enabling us for adding the rule sets to the platform, And based on those rule sets, we can actually adjust the building envelopes, and we can actually visualize the building envelope in the context of the area of interest. And then we can actually compare that with the existing buildings. So this is one of the works in progress at the moment. And perhaps what we can see here is more on, helping the planners understanding the decisions on the building envelopes. And there is a potentiality of adopting this for the local governments and the state government. And the other one is, as I mentioned, the context analysis. Definitely bringing the example of the University of Melbourne Fisherman's Bend Campus Master Plan. You can see at the top left-hand side, the master plan is actually overlaid with planning zones and planning overlays. What type of land use is actually available there? What are the overlays, if there is any heritage overlay or any sort of consideration on those overlays, so we can actually check the development and understand the implications of that sort of development. And bottom right, you can actually see the 360-degree view of the buildings in the reality, what we actually have and how we can actually impact on the existing buildings. So we actually collaborated with C3X in this and generating this module for context analysis. The next one is about the 3D cadastre, where we actually partnered with the Land Use Victorian government on, and our ePlan group is at the moment working on Land Use Victoria, where we are trying to move the cadastre to the next level. But I just want to mention a little bit more about the planning implications of this sort of development. After having a beam data conversion panel in the digital twin, so the user can actually, like the architect, can submit their beam data in the platform, convert it to the geospatial model, and then it can be visualized and in the context and run some styling in terms of the ownership, as well as the other aspects related to the building, like the value of the value or the view to the city or view to the the road or view to the ocean, and also doing a little bit of research on the inside building, so it can be going through the clipping view and a slide view. So with that, we actually have this search and query in 3 dimensions. And finally, assessment of the building impact on the adjacent, the buildings in area, so that we can actually run some visualization above and underground. The next one is actually perhaps more on the live data. We really appreciate, our industries here actually provided through an MOU with the University of Melbourne. They provided the live data on the traffic. So in the top left, you can see the traffic, live traffic data available here, so that you can actually look at the impact of the building on that live traffic data, which is perhaps very important from the digital twin perspective, and seeing how the new development and changing the physical aspect in the city will be impacting the process or the dynamic of the city. We actually have connection through APIs to the Bureau of Meteorology to understand the climate impacts, which is an underpinning part for understanding the climate impact. We, as Benny indicated, in pollution model, we actually have micro simulation there, so we can combine the different scales of the simulation, as well as other available live data like public transport. We can visualize the CCTV camera and the tram networks and so on, which are useful for understanding the planning implications. I think with that, I pass it to you, Benny, for the Melbourne University Space Management.
Okay, thanks. So when we have this sort of digital twin capabilities in-house as Center of Spatial Data Infrastructure and Administration, so we closely also work with Melbourne Uni Vice Chancellor Office. So we create a light version of digital twin for the university with a focus on the spatial management. We call it Spaceman. So here's how the system looks like. So we have several different campuses at Melbourne Uni. So we currently most of the data is available at the Parkview campus, and we collaborate with the space management team and got all this sort of like building floor plan data, and we put it into the system. So the data is currently have like 4 different hierarchies from campus, from buildings, from floors, and to the room level. And we also collaborate with Matport. We do a lot of using their device. We do a lot of like indoor data capturing and do the visualization and integrate all these sort of really high resolution content into the digital twin. So this is like the the inside of the building. So how we can actually attach all this sort of information, to show the content. And this is actually used in our the virtual campus for this opening day last month. And currently we can also do some like measurements inside this too. So we can say, for example, what is like the floor area, what is like the dimension between the 2 points. It's all kind of like integrated into one place. It's quite handy to use. And we also work with the Melbourne University integration team to get some like real-time information. So for example, we got the electricity consumption data. We also have the Wi-Fi data. So we use this sort of information. We build like a model to detect, for example, at the building level, what will be the occupancy. So the data is available. It still needs some time to process the data, but it's near real time. And once we have the information, and we can do some like spatial reasoning, for example, at what time, roughly how many people, staff or students are within which building. So this is quite useful for the space management team as well. So I passed the last use case to Abbas. It's all about the SDGs at Melbourne University.
Thank you very much, Benny, and I appreciate again. I would also like to acknowledge that this particular work around the Melbourne University Digital Twin have been greatly supported by our Chancellery and also Property Campus team. And in particular, I would like to acknowledge our colleagues, Jay Mantis, who has again facilitated a series of work around this. And also our colleagues that have been working with the different dimensions and for the digital twin and also the virtual open campus that we had recently. Also like to acknowledge the work by our colleagues from Forio, the team that have helped us in there. Now, coming back to this, as I've said, we can also arrange that the work that we can work around sustainability. So therefore, what we have done, and as part of one of our strategic components of our new 10 years strategic plan of the university around sustainability, we started adopting the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals framework, in top of our digital twin, and providing this by measuring all of our subjects and points that actually different faculties have been working on. So we have already integrated this into our activities, and now the system can provide you with the measure and demonstrating that who are the perhaps, the researcher and the departments or faculties that have been working on different elements of digital, from the sustainability. So you can measure either by going through indication of any goals or indicators, or by selecting on the map any type of the buildings from our digital twin capabilities. You can select any buildings, and then the system showcasing you that what sort of goals or areas that particular departments have been actually working on. And I think this is again for helping for the better measuring our contribution, and also again the measuring our the success or progress in different of the SDGs areas. And these are the new dimension that we are also expanding this one into the Fisherman's Bend, and in addition into that also a new embedding facility that we can incorporate that into the digital twin, that hopefully our government and industry can better actually again contribute and understanding the impact of their work. I'm very pleased also to see recently a number of agencies, major industries, and also a number of universities, including Melbourne University, have jointly written to the federal governments to adopting SDGs as a framework to planning for recovery of our economy. So therefore, these are the tools that can better demonstrating and helping us for the type of measures. We also working and investigating these areas, and in particular into our cities, and the tool that we are developing right now that to helping with the trade-off between different goals and indicators, which then that can demonstrate that if you are investing in one particular domain or lens, then you can see the impact of your work. And before you're progressing with your investment, then you can actually see where you should actually put your investment, that you can maximize and optimize actually again the outcome. And some of the impacts again we can see, because these are all interrelated domains. So if you are focusing on one particular element, then it may actually bring the negative impact on the other dimension. So therefore the system is providing the tools that would assist you to see the impact, and this is a visualization that we are also providing with some, again, the very clear pathways that how your system is going to work on. So I think that is really the work that we have been working on, and leveraging of our digital twin to bring this into the life. Still, we are at the earliest stage of work. There are absolutely growing areas in this domains that we would be, again, very welcoming opportunity to work in. And if anyone have an interest around any dimensions of the work, we would be very delighted to work with you on that and engage and work together. And hopefully actually we can contribute to our societies, that our society become a better place to live for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abbas. And I would like to acknowledge our team again. This was not, possible without the dedicated team that we have. We always acknowledging their works, and we are hoping to move this forward. So we have a number of questions here. So let me start with the question coming regarding to the underground assets. Yes,
I can touch on that. Yeah.
Please, because the question is, because we briefly mentioned on the visualization of underground assets, and the question is it possible to tell a little bit more about how we are using this and how we have achieved it?
This is, thank you very much for a very important point that you have just questioned us. This is a new dimension that we have started focusing on how we can adopt our system in such a way that would facilitate the registration of underground facilities and assets, in addition to also providing capabilities for different applications, like, for example, for the building of a tunnel or any type of the utilities that moving forward. Therefore, the integration of series of, from the land perspective, as well as also maintenance of the assets into this. So therefore, we started working on this and applying series of lessons that we have learned from the land administration domains and the work and registrations into the underground facilities and assets. And we already defined very clear strategic pathway and also adaptation of some models into this. And we started examining this into the, for example, around the area of Melbourne Central Station, that the number of, again, challenges actually arriving, and in particular with the new station that have been under construction. So these are the areas that we started populating the work around this area and examining the work, and particularly around 3D visualization, validation, and queries. So we would be very happy to explore and discuss this in more detail with you. Just to contact us, and we would be happy to, again, to provide you with the other type of related information. Thank you.
Another good question is coming from Robert Stevenson, asking where are the models, drawing, and the data, specifically the real-time data, are coming from, and how they are actually integrated here. Perhaps Benny can elaborate on that.
Yes, integrating the live information is always a challenging job, particularly from the data hosting perspective, from the data visualization perspective. So it's all about these are challenges. So our current solution is we build different connectors. So through the connectors, we can digest all this sort of information in real time. And we don't really have to, this is also based on our practice. So we don't really have to store every bit of information. But if a lot of information is only kind of like very useful or helpful in the real time, so it's just like a transit. And then all we need to do is we plug some, for example, using some the real-time analytics frameworks. We apply some analysis on top of it, and then we kind of like discuss the data, in the back end. So we don't really want to, for example, hosting the data itself. All we need to do is we grab the information and the knowledge out of it and make some real-time decisions. I think that is a key point. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Benny. So another question is coming from Derek Lim, asking if there was a university subject called like digital twin, what would you include in the course and why?
Oh, I can take perhaps lead that one. Look, we actually are working on this. I mean, to arriving into the two perhaps type of training. One would be around practitioners and hands-on type trainings, which you will be hearing very soon, that opening up for the industry, that providing with all of the solutions and also development abilities that you can progress with this to integrate different source of informations and building up and leveraging of different applications and also platform, and suitability of the data model and data standards. And in fact, one of the very important points of digital twin, which I would also touch on, which is also based on the question that just arrived, related to the greatest challenge that what we have been seeing in the digital twin development. It is about the perhaps multi-source data sets and with different standard and specification. So therefore, utilizing a right standard, an open standard, or a standard that can assist the integration of this, and particularly bringing and providing the means that would assist different, perhaps, the users at the same time. So as an agile type and the system, and on the fly, changing the dimensions or the formats that would assist. One of the things that we have been mostly actually focusing on about the providing the capabilities that would assist with different formats and a standard that can be actually brought in and integrated with each other. So I think that data sets and application would be the one, as well as also use cases. So therefore, what you raised about the training would actually be about the use cases that we would like to provide, the cases that, our participants can actually get into that and explore with their own data sets and apply into this, and then visualize that one into the twin, and also applying some of the integration as well. So we would be, again, coming up with some hands-on activities that would assist, hopefully, our industry to better, again, arriving and leveraging off this area.
Thank you very much. Another question perhaps is related to this, is coming about the use cases for the SDGs in more detail. So there was a question to us to describe a little bit on that.
I can also, again, I was just responding on this. In fact, there are two areas that we started focusing on. One is that, the number of lenses actually we started focusing on, but the one is around energy efficiency. That is the one that actually we're working. And also one is about the goal number 11 and the number of indicators that we're trying to apply into the urban planning and city planning. And in fact, currently we are focusing on a particular case that we are expanding this one from the safety and planning zone activities around Victoria Market. That's one of our researchers have been working on this, as well as also the goal number, the SDGs 10 and also SDGs 3, which is also we are focusing on the number of, again, from the income perspective, as well as also, again, some of the household and the areas that would actually addressing this, the dimension. So the multiple lenses that we are started tackling and providing means into that, and how we can measure the sustainability. Right now, we are also working on our strategy and the framework that how we would actually, again, measure and monitor and integrate this as well from the day, because there are 5 stages of these activities, which are from the data collections into the integration, into the also management, and also apply an interpretation of the series of perhaps analytics and big data learning, as well as also, again, the deep learning analysis.
So I should add that we actually work with the industry at the moment, specifically Arup, that we acknowledged earlier. We are actually working to develop some modules addressing the design and public health issues and challenges, which is directly contributing to the SDGs as well.
And in fact, the current pandemic situation has also helped us to better understand some of the implications into our city design and the furniture, perhaps the arrangement in the city that actually need to be reconsidered, and for any type of new design. And this is the area that we start exploring, that what are the attributes that need to be incorporated into the architectural aspects, as well as also planning activities when we want to embedding the resilience and safety into that.
So another question is about the state government's perspective, and the question is, so if if this looks like expensive to implement, and any tips from us to build a business case, how easy is it to articulate the benefits of digital twin projects, perhaps to the stakeholders? Perhaps the value proposition is something that we always talk about. Perhaps we can actually talk about several state governments in Australia. They championed the test bed understanding of digital twin in different perspectives. The Victorian government provided the test bed in Fisherman's Bend, one of the greatest urban redevelopment areas, to understand the capabilities and the value. So perhaps, proof of concept and piloting is the best to move forward and develop the business case for value proposition. So
questions, Sohail, now arrive into with regard to the governance and data ownership and licensing, which is very, very important aspects that need to be actually investigated significantly on this. We started a number of, again, activities around that. Yes, I totally agree. The question is that how far we have gone perhaps, or into the pilot studies, anything around this, and from the licensing liability and also business model or multi-sector collaboration, which is very important domain here. And because the technical side is very mature, totally agree. And it still needs, more room to improve. But from the other dimension, from institutional and policy areas, these are the areas that we have started working on. And a number of activities around this have been, again, addressed under our collaboration with the United Nations, under Academic Network and UNGGIM. This is an area that we have just got also a success and support from both Melbourne University and also KU Leuven University in Belgium, which we have defined a project exactly on this, about the governance aspects of this and ownership, which we have received support from 2 universities. And this is a project that now been funded, and we are going to hiring 2 and providing 2 scholarships for the 2 PhD students, coming up from this, to collaborate between us and also business school and the governance school from KU Leuven University in Belgium, to addressing this and leveraging off from the safety from digital twin and into this.
Thank you very much. There is a question regarding to the common data environments. So this question asks if the challenge is perceived by us, and whether we're taking this into account. Benny, perhaps you can actually elaborate on that.
Yes. So when we're working with the building, the AEC industry, particularly about the building, these sort of things, the BIM data. So it's slightly different from because our background is geospatial. So there's still a big gap there. So when we're trying to bring this to community, talk to each other, particularly from the data exchange perspective, there's a huge change there. And it's not just the academia. I think the industry is also working towards to make the connection between the 2 major players on the market. So it will be a lot of how to say, very promising applications if we can resolve from the data exchange or data integration perspective. If, for example, all these sort of traditional GIS data can work seamlessly with all this the BIM data, RFC. But based on our experience, it's not an easy job. There's still a big research gap in between, and particularly if we're talking about in the digital twin environment. So the live information is a key, and so we also need, for example, how we can constantly update the ground truth, and all these sort of things. There's still a lot of uncertainty and a lot of research questions there. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Adam. We have 2 minutes to end. I don't know whether we still have a number of questions. We can always go back to our audience through our emails, and you can actually continue.
I think we have to go back to them later. Because of time. Yep.
Sahil, thank you very much for that. And yes, the questions, I think, are a perfect indication of how interesting the content was that you all shared. So on behalf of the Smart Cities Council and Digital Twin Week, Abbas, Sahil and Benny, thank you so much for joining us. For our guests, as I mentioned, the recording of this session will be up on our YouTube channel, Smart Cities Council Australia New Zealand. That'll be up there tomorrow morning. You'll be able to go and share that with any colleagues that weren't able to make it today, or indeed if you wanted to share that around. And finally, just a reminder that we still have another 4 days of digital twin activity and engagement and networking to do. If you haven't seen the full program, head to Smart Cities Council, not Smart Cities Council, Digital Twin Week .com, and you can register for any of the sessions there. Thank you so much, everyone, our guests from University of Melbourne, all of our audience who've dialed in from many different places. We hope it's been of great interest to you, and indeed there'll be contact details that will be forwarded after this session. Thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on another session at Digital Twin Week in the next few days. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.